The NFL trade deadline has officially passed, and the Chiefs didn't do a damn thing. So we've got a lot to get into in this video, but if you guys are new to this channel, my name is Michael Darcy, and you're watching the KC Sports Report. Do me a big time favor and hit that like button, share this video so other Chiefs fans can watch it, and hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the disappointing news from today that the Chiefs decided not to make a trade at the deadline to acquire a running back or a defensive end or an edge rusher, a defensive tackle. They stayed pretty much put at where they're at, and a lot of fans are upset. And I kind of fall in that boat because the Chiefs had some pretty glaring needs. They need an edge rusher. They need someone that could get to the quarterback. They could use a defensive tackle because Derek Nottie, according to PFF, is the worst defensive tackle in football. And it almost seems like after Mike Pennel became available and the Chiefs signed him back to the active roster, that was almost like their trade deadline. That was almost the acquisition that, they thought they might have to make at the trade deadline. They just went out and brought back an old friend. And it kind of sucks that Mike Pennel ended up being the only addition to this team before the trade deadline, and it didn't even come via trade. I know that Chiefs Twitter right now is up in an absolute frenzy that they didn't trade for, Jets running back Breece Hall, especially after a day where the Jets traded their cornerback Sauce Gardner, who just signed a 4-year, $120 million contract this last offseason. They traded Quinnen Williams, their stud defensive tackle, to the Cowboys. So the Jets made all of those moves, trading foundational pillars of their team and of their defense. But they kept Jermaine Johnson and they kept Breece Hall, both players that are probably not going to be on that Jets team next year. And Breece Hall was upset. He wanted out of New York. And, on a day where the fire sale was happening in New York, the Chiefs didn't get anything. And I'm not as upset of the Chiefs not getting Breece Hall because I was under the impression that Breece Hall would make this team better. But how many times have we seen the Chiefs trade for somebody at the deadline like, a Le'Veon Bell or, even last year like a Josh Uche, and then they never truly, actually do anything. And I think that part of that is because Andy Reid is stubborn and doesn't like to, give guys that haven't been here very long that much of a run. But I was cautiously optimistic at the idea of trading for Breece Hall because I didn't think that he would even play much if he did get traded to us. Here's the issue. A report came out, I believe Nate Taylor of Nate Taylor of ESPN said it, that the Chiefs were willing to give up a fourth-round pick, which could conditionally be a third-round pick if the player that was traded for hit certain criteria with the Chiefs. I think that probably turned a lot of teams off. They wanted just a third-round pick. That was the report that came out, that the Jets were willing to trade Breece Hall for a third-round pick. I don't really understand why the Jets wouldn't just get rid of him for a fourth, because he obviously doesn't want to be there, and they're not going to bring him back next year, but especially on a day where you traded two of your pivotal foundation pieces on your defense that were under contract. I don't understand why they kept guys that probably won't be here next year, but the Chiefs miss out on getting a pass rusher, getting someone that could truly make a difference on this defensive line, and they also miss out on adding depth in the running back room. And not just depth, but potentially a starting caliber running back that you could have got for a late day 2 or day 3 pick. And that sucks because I do think that Breece Hall would have made this team so much better, but that is depending on a couple factors. Is he getting enough reps? Is he actually getting integrated into the Chiefs offense? Or is it going to be another player added to the list of guys that don't end up producing in Kansas City after getting traded here? You know how excited I was for DeAndre Hopkins to be a Chief? And I think most of us would agree that he wasn't horrible, but he was never the same guy. And, maybe Breece Hall was different because he is significantly younger and just either entering his prime or currently in his prime. So that trade would have been different, but the Chiefs have taken a lot of guys via trade over the past couple years that are either past their prime and just names, Le'Veon Bell, DeAndre Hopkins, or they trade for someone like a Josh Uche and then they just refuse to play him. So it's difficult for me to be upset that the Chiefs didn't make a move just because I don't even know if they would play the guy that they traded for. At least with Mike Pennel, you know that he's going to play. You know that he is going to get serious snaps on that defense, but I wish the approach for the Chiefs would change because there were good players out there, man. Bradley Chubb, Jermaine Johnson, those guys could have been Chiefs if they would have been willing to, pony up the draft capital. And if you look at Brett Veach's history of drafting in the third round, it's not very good. The best player I think he's taken is probably Leo Chenal. And if you've got a chance to get a starting caliber running back that would have to be signed in this offseason, but if you punt on your third round draft pick saying, we'll take the proven commodity in Breece Hall, I think that would have been a better move. But, I just think the Chiefs are so stuck in their ways. They think that, that they're good enough. They think they have the talent. And there is some truth to it that the Chiefs have the talent to be, a Super Bowl contender. They're just not playing like it. And they definitely could have used help on that defensive line, but I think everyone around the NFL needed an edge rusher. Reports came out the Bears were interested. The Chiefs were obviously interested. I mean, there were so many teams out there. The Cowboys trading for Quinnen Williams. Everybody wanted edge rusher help or pass rush help, and I don't think the Chiefs were willing to give up the draft capital required to go get, a Jalen Phillips, who ended up going for a third-round pick, and the Eagles ended up really lucking out with the capital, or what they're paying Jalen Phillips this year, but that's a guy that might not be in Philly next year. But I think, they were willing to throw a third-round draft pick at a guy that could help them win right now. It would have been nice for the Chiefs to do that very same thing, and I think there could be, a couple weeks down the line where they regret not making a move at the deadline. But I do want to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. How are you feeling after this kind of a letdown of a Tuesday where we thought that a move was going to be made at some point for the Chiefs? Nothing. Brett Veach just sat back and watched as other teams around the NFL made moves, but I guess none of those moves fit the Chiefs' criteria. And I kind of want to talk more about that, and we'll do that right after a word from our fantastic sponsors. This video is sponsored by my friends over at DM Injury Law. Injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation, but time is critical. Rely on the experienced personal injury attorneys at DM Law, Kansas City and Missouri's top injury law firm. DM Law is a full-service personal injury practice supported by a large team of investigators, case managers, medical records specialists, and more. And best of all, you don't pay unless they win. DM Law operates on a contingency fee basis, meaning no fees unless they win your case. And they also provide free consultations. So if you've been injured, don't wait. You can contact DM Law today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you pursue the compensation you deserve. Let them handle the fight while you focus on healing. Hurt in a car wreck? Call Mike. Remember, Mike's got this. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisement. Thanks to DM Injury Law for sponsoring this video. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and an ESPN Bet sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow their Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Huge thanks to the sponsors that support this channel all football season long, and shout out to you guys for watching this video and showing so much support on this channel. I truly appreciate it. But when we talk about the Chiefs and when we talk about Brett Veach and history of trading for players, the last time the Chiefs made a splash trade at the deadline that worked out was the Chiefs sending a third-round pick to the New York Giants for Kadarius Toney. And in the moment, people were like, ooh, a third-round draft pick? That's kind of rich. It worked out tenfold for the Chiefs. Obviously, Kadarius Toney, I don't know what he is doing in the year of our Lord 2025. It's not playing football at the NFL level. Maybe he's rapping right now, but it didn't work out after the fact. But as a rental, he had a massive punt return in the Super Bowl, and he caught a touchdown. You're going to take that. I think Breece Hall could have been a player that you could have had in the building for a third-round draft pick. I personally would have given up a third because knowing Brett Veach's draft history in the third round, I think Breece Hall is a better player than you'd probably find in the third, and you also have the chance to extend him and just get rid of the need for a running back, period. Because next year, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt and Elijah Mitchell are going to be free agents, and I can almost guarantee you that 2 of 3, or maybe even all of them, are not going to be back. So you need running backs on this roster, and if you would have traded for Breece Hall, you could have re-signed him next offseason, and you don't have to worry about it. But now this continues to be a need, continues to be something they'll have to address down the road. They could have avoided it. But I think, especially because I understand the Chiefs not going out and trading a high pick for a defensive end or a defensive tackle. The issue that I have is that Calais Campbell is rotting in Arizona right now. You're telling me he could have made this defensive tackle room better? You know, you got guys around the league that could have probably been sneaky good pickups, and the Chiefs just refuse to do so. And I wonder if part of that has to do with not just cap space, but what the Chiefs are willing to give up via trade and just the draft restrictions that they're currently under. They don't have a ton of picks. I mean, they just quite frankly don't. But I think when you're in a win now mode, F them picks, man. Just, you don't need them. You need someone like Breece Hall or, you know, a player like Calais Campbell that you could have had on this team, and they just neglected the needs. And we're going to get some tweet, I'm assuming, in the next hour that, oh, the Chiefs were in on Breece Hall, but they were just refusing to get off of that 4th-round conditional 3rd-round pick. And I think that that's something that they might regret down the line. But I do want to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. How are you feeling on this NFL trade deadline day? Again, the deadline was at 3 p.m. Central. I was refreshing Twitter up until 3 o'clock. Not really that surprised the Chiefs didn't do anything. Am I a bit disappointed? Yeah, I think they could have gotten better today, and it wouldn't have costed them, you know, what the Colts traded for Sauce Gardner. And I'll tell you what, that opens up a completely separate conversation on one of our own guys in Trent McDuffie, which we will have in another video because I'm pretty passionate about it. But I think the Chiefs had a chance to get a little bit better today, and they didn't do it. So a lot more pressure is going to be on, you know, the defensive line, the edge rushers to be better because you don't have help coming. Today was your chance to get help. Help is not on the way. There's nobody coming. So it better be, you know, an improvement from Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana. They better step up. George Karlaftis, you better start winning early on your reps. Like, we're going to have to see this pass rush get better because there's no help coming anymore. You know, the trade deadline's passed. The guys you have on this final 53 are going to be the guys here that finish out this season. So we'll see if they're good enough. I mean, they've historically been good enough to go to the Super Bowl. We'll see. We'll see. But that's all I've got for this video. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more daily Chiefs content. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. We are less than 300 subscribers away from 15,000. If you could do a giant favor for me and tell a friend to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. But thank you for watching. And as always, go Chiefs.